Reaching the age of 80 is a milestone that brings with it a deep sense of reflection. Many of us think of this stage in life as a time for rest, comfort, and the culmination of years of hard work and dedication. But as you enter this stage, something more profound happens. It's not just about slowing down, it's about embracing the quiet changes that come with age, many of which are unexpected. At 80, life doesn't always play by the rules we once lived by. The realities of aging hit harder than we anticipate, but the key lies in how we approach these challenges. This stage of life can be filled with beautiful moments, but it also brings with it certain brutal realities that no one often talks about. These are the kinds of truths that, when faced head-on, can help you navigate this time with grace, dignity, and resilience. The changes you'll encounter might not always be easy to accept, but by acknowledging them, you give yourself the opportunity to adjust, grow, and thrive. In this story, we'll dive deep into 5 harsh truths that every senior over 80 must understand about aging, loneliness, and the changes that come with it. Understanding these realities is not meant to scare you, but to empower you. By acknowledging the challenges ahead, you're no longer at their mercy. You can prepare and move through this stage of life with wisdom and strength. So let's talk about what truly happens after 80 and how to face these shifts with open eyes and an open heart. 1. The shrinking circle, how social connections gradually fade. As you step into your 80s, one of the most poignant shifts you will experience is the gradual fading of your social circle. It's not an abrupt change, and it's certainly not something you can immediately point to. It happens slowly, like the ebbing of a tide, and before you realize it, many of the people who once populated your life are no longer as present, or in some cases, gone entirely. This quiet transformation can leave you feeling a bit lost, wondering where everyone went and what happened to all those social connections that once brought joy and meaning to your life. In the early years of life, we are surrounded by a constant flurry of social activity. We have a robust network of friends, family, colleagues, and acquaintances, all contributing to the bustling energy of our days. We meet new people, attend social gatherings, engage in work, and live our lives in the full embrace of community. But as the years pass, things begin to change. One of the first noticeable shifts after reaching 80 is that people begin to fall away. It's not because they love you any less. It's simply the reality of time. Friends pass away, neighbors move, children grow up and start their own lives, and siblings grow older and less communicative. Those constant phone calls, those long visits, those spontaneous meetups, they all become more and more rare. This can be a tough pill to swallow, especially when you realize that the sound of the phone ringing is no longer as frequent, and when it does ring, the conversation feels shorter and more strained. The physical presence of others becomes less and less common, and what's left behind is a quiet house, a quiet day, and often a quiet heart. At first, this shrinking social circle may not seem so impactful. You might brush it off as a natural part of aging. You might think to yourself, it's just a phase, everyone's busy, everyone has their own things going on. But as the days, weeks, and months pass, you begin to feel the emptiness that this absence creates. You might start noticing that invitations to gatherings, whether from family or friends, are fewer and farther between. The invitations that do come feel rushed, almost like obligations rather than celebrations. Family visits become less frequent and more hurried. Those weekend brunches with friends that used to fill your calendar, they start to disappear. You might find yourself wondering why, when you've always been there for others, it seems like others are no longer there for you. This shift in social dynamics can feel incredibly isolating, even though it's happening naturally and without malice. People are not intentionally leaving you behind. They are simply navigating their own lives. However, that doesn't make it any easier to endure. The social circle that once felt comforting and alive with laughter, shared moments, and long conversations becomes quieter and quieter as the years wear on. But here's the thing. While the shrinking circle is a reality, it doesn't have to be the end of social connection. What it means is that at this stage of life, you are going to have to make an effort to continue building those connections. You're going to have to be more proactive about reaching out to others, even if it feels like it's not coming as naturally as it once did. You can sit back and expect people to come to you the way they did when you were younger. This time, you have to go to them. It's important to remember that this is not a loss but an opportunity. While your old friendships may fade, there's still room to form new ones. Maybe it's joining a social group in your local community, a hobby club, or a class. It might mean reaching out to family members for regular calls or setting up visits. Even if those invitations aren't coming to you, you can take the initiative to create your own invitations. It is also important to recognize that the connections you do make at this stage of life tend to be different. They are more intentional, more meaningful. People who share your experiences and your wisdom may become even more important to you, as they understand what you're going through in ways that others may not. You might find yourself forming deeper connections with those who have similar life experiences. These connections can bring a sense of solidarity and understanding that you may not have experienced in your younger years. But even with these intentional efforts, it's also crucial to accept that not everyone will be a part of your life forever. Some people may still drift away, and that's okay. This is a time to honor those who remain and cherish the quality of your connections, not just the quantity. Even a few meaningful relationships can be more fulfilling than many shallow ones. As you continue to age, this understanding will allow you to approach your social world with a sense of grace and resilience. You'll learn to seek out connection in new ways. You'll build new circles of friends, even if they're smaller, and you'll cultivate relationships that are grounded in mutual respect, understanding, and shared experiences. And most importantly, you'll find the courage to take the first step, even when it's not always easy. This shift, while painful, is also liberating. It can be freeing to know that you don't have to be constantly surrounded by others to feel valued. In fact, this is a time where solitude can also bring its own kind of peace. And by making the effort to stay connected, to reach out to others, and to create new bonds, you are opening doors that will lead to a deeper, more meaningful experience of life. It's not about having a large social circle, it's about having connections that nourish your soul and bring joy to your life. 2. A body that stops bouncing back, the physical changes you didn't expect. When you reach 80, the body you once took for granted starts to feel different. It's not just about the grey hairs or the wrinkles, it's the subtle yet impactful changes that happen within. The body that used to bounce back quickly after a long day, a long walk, or even a minor injury, no longer responds in the same way. And that shift can be both surprising and humbling. The aches and pains that were once temporary nuisances now have a tendency to linger, sticking around long after you thought they'd be gone. And while you may still be active and engaged in your life, your body has its own rhythm now, a slower, more deliberate one. The days of waking up feeling fully rested, completely energized and ready to take on the world seem to be fewer and farther between. You might wake up with a little stiffness in your back, or an ache in your knees that wasn't there the day before. And the worst part? These aren't always temporary. What once healed with a good night's sleep or a little stretching now seems to stay around longer, almost as if your body is teaching you to slow down whether you are ready for it or not. Take the simple act of getting up from a chair. What used to be a smooth motion, something you did without even thinking, now comes with a little pause. You might feel a momentary stiffness in your legs, a tightness in your joints, or a mild dizziness when you stand. These small moments become more frequent, and with them comes the realization that your body is no longer as resilient as it once was. The bounce back after physical exertion isn't as fast, and recovery time seems to stretch out longer and longer. What's particularly difficult for many is the unpredictability of these changes. You could be feeling fine one day, walking with ease, enjoying your day, and then suddenly something feels off. Maybe you bend over to pick something up, and when you stand up, your back protests. Maybe you wake up with a stiffness in your shoulders, or a dull pain in your hip that wasn't there the night before. The real challenge comes when these small minor discomforts begin to add up and become more persistent. Gloria, an 81-year-old woman I know, is a perfect example of this. She was active, independent, and proud of her ability to maintain her lifestyle. She loved tending to her backyard garden, taking long walks around the neighborhood, and staying engaged with her book club. But after a minor fall while trimming a rose bush, everything changed. The injury wasn't severe, it wasn't a broken bone, but the aftermath was. What she thought would be a short rest turned into months of reduced strength and loss of confidence. The hardest part wasn't the fall, Gloria told me. It was what came after. The weeks of rest turned into months of reduced mobility, and I started to lose my strength. I thought I was just taking a break, but my body treated it like a full stop. This is one of the harsh realities that come with aging, that minor injuries or disruptions in your routine can sometimes take much longer to recover from than they used to. A simple fall or misstep, which would have been shrugged off in earlier years, can now lead to a prolonged period of weakness, discomfort, or even a fear of further injury. And even when you're feeling better, the recovery isn't quite the same. The bounce back is slow, and that can be frustrating. The body that once carried you through long days, active workouts, and spontaneous adventures is now telling you to slow down, rest, and be mindful of your limits. The key to managing this reality lies in acceptance. Accepting that your body no longer recovers as quickly or as completely as it once did is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of wisdom. At this stage in life, it's no longer about pushing through the pain or ignoring the body's signals. It's about listening to what your body is telling you and responding accordingly. It's about learning to pace yourself. Honoring your body's limitations doesn't mean giving up. It means adapting. You may not be able to run as fast, lift as much, or go on long hikes without feeling the effects the next day, but you can still move forward with intention and care. It is about finding new ways to stay active that don't push your body too hard. Maybe that means taking more frequent breaks, incorporating stretching and strengthening exercises into your routine, or simply acknowledging that rest is as important as activity. In many ways, your relationship with your body in your 80s becomes a more balanced one. You recognize the importance of taking care of yourself, of slowing down when you need to, of giving yourself grace when you can't do everything you once could, and of embracing the changes that come with aging. But even in the midst of these changes, there's strength. The body may not bounce back the way it used to, but it can still carry you through life in powerful ways. Slowing down doesn't mean stopping, it just means finding a new rhythm. It means adapting to your body's needs, while still holding on to the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. So, while the physical challenges of aging can be difficult, they don't have to define you. You can still live an active, fulfilling life. It just looks a little different now, and that's okay. 3. The growing need for help. Learning to accept assistance. One of the hardest realities of life after 80 is the growing need for help. No matter how independent you have been throughout your life, there comes a point when you begin to realize that you can't do everything on your own anymore. It doesn't happen overnight, but rather it creeps up slowly. At first, it's just little things. Needing help with reaching high shelves, feeling hesitant to drive in bad weather, or perhaps feeling a little unsteady when walking down the stairs. These are subtle changes, and they don't necessarily mean you're incapable. They simply reflect the reality that your body and your energy are not what they once were. But what makes this reality particularly difficult isn't just the physical need for assistance. It is the emotional challenge. For those who have spent decades caring for others, providing support, and handling things on their own, the idea of needing help can feel uncomfortable, even humiliating. You might start feeling like you're becoming a burden, like you're losing control. And that's a hard thing to admit, especially if you've always prided yourself on being self-sufficient. The struggle to ask for help often comes with the feeling that you're no longer useful, no longer independent, and that others may see you as weak or incapable. These feelings can create a sense of isolation, and sometimes you may even start to hide your struggles, avoiding telling your children about a fall, not asking for help with groceries, or trying to fix things around the house when you should really be resting. But it is essential to understand that needing help doesn't mean you've lost your independence. It means you're adapting to the reality of aging. Eugene, an 85-year-old man I met, provides a perfect example of this struggle. Eugene had always prided himself on doing everything himself. He was a man of action, having lived through war, raised 4 children, and built a shed in his backyard with nothing but spare wood and determination. But one winter, he slipped on his icy driveway. No broken bones, but a bruised pride. Despite his injury, Eugene didn't tell anyone, but his daughter began to notice something was different. He wasn't as sharp, as energetic, or as independent as he used to be. She started showing up once a week to bring groceries and stay for coffee. At first, Eugene resisted. "I'm fine," he said. Over time, however, Eugene began to realize something important. It's nice not to have to carry everything alone. That moment of realization was transformative for him. Accepting help wasn't a loss of his independence, it was a way to preserve it. Allowing others to assist you doesn't diminish your strength, it enhances it. Asking for help when you need it, whether it's for physical tasks, emotional support, or simply companionship, is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. Asking for help can be a difficult process, but it can also be liberating. It means recognizing that you don't have to shoulder everything alone anymore, and that sharing the load with others doesn't take away from your dignity. Instead, it provides the space and energy to continue living fully. It's important to remember that asking for help doesn't mean giving up your independence. It's a way of protecting it. Whether it's a friend offering to drive you to the doctor, a neighbor helping with yard work, or a family member offering to assist with shopping, allowing others to lend a hand doesn't make you weaker. It allows you to continue living your life in a way that is safe, fulfilling, and supported. In fact, accepting help can open doors to new connections and opportunities. It's a chance to build deeper, more meaningful relationships. When you allow others to help, you create a space for mutual care and exchange. The people around you want to help. They want to ensure that you remain healthy, happy, and able to enjoy your life to the fullest. So don't be afraid to accept that help. It's not a reflection of weakness, but rather a celebration of the care and support that come with the relationships you've built over your lifetime. Even beyond people, help can come in other forms: modifications to your living space, assistive devices, or even services that make daily tasks easier. For example, simple things like installing grab bars in the bathroom, using a stool in the kitchen, or getting reminders for appointments can go a long way in maintaining your independence while staying safe. These little changes make a big difference in how you navigate your daily life, and they ensure that you can continue doing the things you love with ease. The growing need for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of growth and adaptability. As you age, it's okay to ask for and accept the support you need. Doing so is not just practical, it's wise. You've lived a lifetime of strength and resilience, and now it's about using that wisdom to ensure you continue to thrive with dignity and grace. 4. The invisible presence, learning to be seen and heard. One of the most painful realities of life after 80 is the quiet way the world starts to overlook you. It's not that the people closest to you stop seeing you, but the world at large often forgets you. Slowly, you begin to feel like your presence doesn't matter as much. It starts with subtle things: the cashier who looks past you to the person behind you, the doctor who speaks to your adult child instead of you, or the waiter who assumes you can't hear or think for yourself. At first, it's easy to brush off, but as time goes on, these little instances accumulate, and the weight of feeling invisible becomes harder to ignore. It's not that anyone is being malicious. It's simply that society, in its obsession with youth, tends to overlook those who no longer fit the mold of what is considered vibrant or active. We live in a world that celebrates fast-paced living and youth, often at the expense of recognizing the value of older individuals. But you know better. You've lived a full life, weathered many storms, and gathered countless experiences. You've earned the right to be seen and heard no matter how old you are. And yet, the world's disregard for older people is a quiet ache that lingers. Take Irene, for example. Irene, 86 years old, had been volunteering at a local museum for years. One day, a visitor asked a question about a specific historical period, one that Irene, being from that era, could have answered easily. However, the question was directed to the younger staff member. Irene didn't mind the oversight at first. She smiled and said, "I'm used to it." But deep down, she felt that familiar sting of invisibility. She was used to being dismissed, but that didn't make it any less painful. The reality is that as we age, we often find ourselves becoming invisible to others, despite having so much to offer. The sad thing is that this doesn't always come from a place of ill intent. It's more about the cultural tendency to value youth and ignore the wisdom of older generations. The world seems to move faster and faster, And sometimes it forgets that the people who have lived the longest have the most stories to tell, the deepest insights and the richest perspectives. So what can we do about this? How can we prevent ourselves from becoming invisible in a society that seems to prioritize youth? The first step is to continue speaking up, even when you feel like no one is listening. It's about making your presence felt and heard. When you find yourself in a room, share your thoughts, offer your opinions, and ask questions. Don't shrink back just because others might not be paying attention. Your voice still matters, and it's crucial that you make sure people hear it. Another way to ensure that you remain visible is to continue seeking out spaces where you can be heard. Whether it's by joining a local club, taking part in community events, or participating in activities where your experience and perspective are valued, staying engaged is key. Don't wait for the world to reach out to you. Go out and engage with it on your terms. I remember a woman named Clara who at 82 decided to take up writing. She had always loved stories, but she never had the time to write them down when she was younger. So she started writing short stories and essays about her life, her travels, and the lessons she had learned. She joined a local writing group where she could share her work and receive feedback. To her surprise, her stories were not only welcomed, but deeply appreciated. She became a regular contributor to a local newsletter, sharing her stories with the community. This gave her a new sense of purpose and visibility. Her voice was no longer ignored. She was telling her story, and people were listening. You see, one of the most important things you can do as you grow older is to continue to carve out spaces where you can be seen and heard. It is not about shouting to get attention. It is about standing firm in your own worth and ensuring that the world knows that you are still here, still contributing, and still valuable. When you continue to speak, share, and contribute, you not only reclaim your space in the world, but you also remind others of the wealth of experience and wisdom you carry with you. This invisible presence is not something you need to accept passively. You have the power to choose to be seen. Stand up, speak out, and continue to engage with the world around you. Your life, your experiences, and your perspective are invaluable. And it's time for the world to recognize that. 5. Redefining purpose, embracing the joy of the present. As you move deeper into your 80s, one of the most profound realizations is that purpose doesn't retire. It evolves. There's a quiet, almost insidious shift that occurs when you reach this age. The question of what now may start to linger more often than you'd like. When you've spent the majority of your life working, raising children, or pursuing career ambitions, retirement can feel like an abrupt shift, almost like losing your identity. What happens when the calendar isn't as full, the work no longer piles up, and you have more time to think and reflect than you ever did before? This transition can stir up feelings of emptiness or a sense of loss. The silence in your home may become deafening. The question of what to do with all this newfound time can weigh heavily on your heart. It's not necessarily about feeling bored. Rather, it's about the challenge of finding a new sense of purpose. After a lifetime of busyness, how do you now fill that space? I remember meeting a woman named Charlotte, who was 82 when she finally retired after 40 years of teaching. Her classroom had been her life, and when she left, there was an undeniable sense of absence. "What do I do now?" she asked me one day, sitting in my office with a mixture of nostalgia and uncertainty in her eyes. It wasn't that she had lost the drive to be useful. Rather, she had not yet figured out where her purpose would go next. She spent the first few months of retirement feeling adrift, trying out hobbies, but never fully engaging with them. But then Charlotte made an extraordinary discovery. Instead of looking at retirement as the end of her purpose, she began to see it as an opportunity to create new meaning. She joined a volunteer program at the local library, where she could teach reading to children, something that reignited her passion for teaching. She realized that her purpose didn't have to be tied to a career or even a large, grand project. It could simply be found in the joy of connection, of imparting wisdom, and of making a difference, no matter how small. Charlotte learned that purpose isn't necessarily a monumental, earth-shaking force. It can simply be the quiet contributions that ripple through the lives of others, whether through acts of kindness, teaching, or even just being a listening ear. For many, The transition into retirement or the later years is often marred by this misconception that without work, there is no purpose. The idea that we need to be doing something constantly to feel valid and valued. But this is an outdated notion. Purpose doesn't disappear with age. It simply takes on new forms. It is important to realize that just because you've stopped working doesn't mean you've stopped being valuable. In fact, it's a time to redefine purpose, to create a new framework for living, where the act of doing is replaced by the act of being present, being involved, and being true to what brings you joy. Perhaps for you, purpose could take shape in the form of hobbies you've always put off. It might be starting a new creative pursuit like painting or writing, activities that allow you to express yourself without the constraints of deadlines or demands. Maybe you'd like to learn a new skill, whether it's mastering a language, learning to play a musical instrument, or diving into history and cultural studies. It doesn't matter what the activity is. What matters is that it fuels your soul and helps you feel alive and engaged. For others, purpose can be found in community. Many seniors find joy in becoming deeply involved in their local community, whether by volunteering for charitable organizations, helping out at schools or churches, or participating in social clubs. These social interactions provide not only a sense of purpose, but also a profound connection to the world around them. The relationships you build in this phase of life can be as meaningful, if not more so, than any career or job you held. Then there are those who find purpose in family, especially in the role of grandparent or great-grandparent. The wisdom and love you pass down to your children and grandchildren is invaluable, and your presence in their lives helps create the foundation of future generations. The stories you share, the experiences you recount, and the guidance you offer are invaluable gifts that continue to shape your legacy. Family may look different at this stage of life, but the importance of familial bonds only grows stronger, and there is no greater purpose than enriching the lives of those you love. Whatever your form of purpose may be, it's essential to acknowledge that this is not a time of restlessness, but of meaningful action. The beauty of growing older lies in the freedom to shape your days however you choose, without the constraints of obligations or expectations. And as you embrace this phase, the key to happiness is not simply accepting the changes, but actively engaging with them. Find joy in new pursuits, savor every moment, and understand that your purpose can continue to evolve with you, no matter what age you are. The truth is, you are not finished just because you've crossed into your 80s. Your story is far from over, and the opportunity to redefine your purpose, to fill your days with meaning, remains one of life's greatest gifts. You are still needed, you are still valuable, and you have the power to make the most of every moment in this incredible chapter of life. As you journey through your 80s, you are entering a new phase of life. It's a chapter that, though filled with challenges, holds immense potential. The lessons we've covered here, from accepting the changes in your social circle to redefining your purpose and embracing the realities of physical decline, are not meant to frighten you. Rather, they are here to help you prepare, to arm you with the knowledge that will allow you to face this time with grace, strength, and resilience. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that age brings only loss, that the world is moving on without you, and that your best years are behind you. But this simply isn't true. The years after 80 offer new opportunities to discover meaning in your everyday life, whether it's forging new connections, engaging in activities that bring you joy, or sharing your wisdom with younger generations. There is still so much to give and to receive. The key is to focus on what you can control, how you engage with the world, how you manage your health, and how you maintain your independence in ways that feel right for you. The loneliness, the quiet, and the slow pace of life are all real experiences, but they don't have to be negative. You have the power to shape your experience after 80 in a way that is meaningful to you, and that's where the magic happens. So as you move forward into the next stage of your life, remember that it's okay to slow down, to rest, to reflect, and to redefine your goals. You are not invisible, and you are not irrelevant. You are still living a story that matters, and that story is yours to tell. Remember that you've earned every moment of peace, every moment of joy, and every moment of wisdom. You have a lifetime of experiences behind you, and now it's time to enjoy the fruits of all that hard work, love, and perseverance. The final chapter of life is not the end of the story. It's the part where every word carries weight, where your presence is felt deeply, and where the most beautiful things often come in the quietest moments. Continue to walk with your head held high, and remember that you are far from finished. The best is yet to come.